Oh.
I mean, come on.
Oh, you dark, dark boy.
Dennis, is it happy hour?
What?
Where are we?
It's
When are we?
In spite of that. Where are we?
Where are we?
Oh, we're on Dune.
Whoa.
Did you ever see that movie? Dune?
No, but I've heard about it, and what I've heard is that it's pretty much just the wildest fucking ride that a movie can be, and it requires
It may be the
total
worst movie
belief.
ever made. That's why it's famous.
Right.
Maybe the worst movie ever made. That's why it's famous.
Given that it is based on such a beloved book. Like,
Yes.
if you just came out and made a movie that was that stupid, that would be one thing, but to base it on a book that is loved. However, apparently the book is also pretty fucking wackadoo with different creatures and aliens
Well,
and shit.
there's wackadoo, and then there's screenplay bullshit, and then there's
wackadoo, and then there's
poor
wackadoo.
acting, and then there's poor sound effects and really questionable plot lines. And when you have a book that's that long, you essentially, over the course of an hour and a half or 2 hours, if it's a longer film, are going to be representing four or five storylines, pieces of a storyline that in the book may take up less than a chapter or a chapter. And
Right.
if you've 35, 40 chapter book and you're going to do a screenplay, you're going to recreate the scenes that the screenwriters look at the book and say, of everything that's here, this is the most powerful.
Right. And
So
that's always a tough decision. Like, for example, there are movies that I've seen where it is so obvious to me that this movie is just trying to recreate scenes that the lovers of the book will enjoy.
yeah.
Like all of the Harry Potter movies, for example, are basically that. It's so
Well,
disjointed, and it's hard to follow as a cinema goer. But the people that have loved the books and know how the vignettes are tied together, they don't see the disjointedness of it. Whereas someone that has not read the books, it just seems, okay, now they're here doing this scene, and now they're over here doing this other scene, and I guess I can guess how these are related.
If you believe that opinion, is that an opinion, or do you take good information that's actually the case?
Well, as I revealed last episode, I come into these shows totally versed in all of the background research and knowledge and academia around the subjects that I breach. But in this case, it's just my fucking opinion, man. What do I know?
Okay.
But,
Well,
you know, and I've certainly have enjoyed movies where I have read the book, and I can also respect that what they're doing is showing me scenes from the
Yes.
book that I've read.
And of course, through excellent screenplay, the connectors of the web they weave that has these different scenes in it, a total of 30 or 40 scenes per episode, perhaps, or only
Sure.
10 or 5, depending on what they're doing. But through that, they're capturing not only an example of the storyline, but you're capturing the actual storyline as well. To the extent that they do that, people who haven't read the book will follow it. But it has to be done in a way that doesn't assume anything about the viewer.
Correct.
For example, that if they've read it, they'll love it, and if they haven't, they may not get it. That shouldn't be the standard, in my view. And I don't know if you're suggesting it is, but
No. As we discussed at length about Beartown, it started with that initial vignette, which is how the book started to grip the reader. And that's great. One example that comes to mind is, I think it might be one of the only products where I saw the movie first and I liked the movie so much that I went and read the book. But it's Racing in the Rain or something like that. Learning to race in the rain.
the dog.
Yeah. And I saw the movie on a plane, and it was just fantastic.
Is this a song? Hey, you just did a rhyme.
What did I
You said on a
rhyme?
plane.
I saw Learning to Race in the Rain on a plane when I was going to
Yes.
Spain.
Yes, there you go. Now you got it.
There you
Roll with it, baby. Roll with it.
And then I went and I read the book, and it was almost scene for scene. Like there was a little bit where they changed exactly how the in-laws were suing the protagonist, the human protagonist. But it was the part where it starts, much like how Beartown starts, it starts at the end, where the dog is clearly dying, and he's reflecting on his life with his owner, and then you flip back and watch that. And the movie did that perfectly. And so it also helped that like I had the scenery in my head already. It made it easier to read the book because I wasn't having to conjure the actors' faces and what. That was a good book and movie.
Yeah. So this is like you watch the movie, then you want to see the book. So I watched something the other that happened right away, and it was the remake of The Three Stooges. And the reason that I want you to see it
classic novel, The Three Stooges.
In the opening, Larry David plays a nun at the nunnery where the three Stooges are students, and Larry David as a nun is so freaking funny that, and of course after that you want to turn the channel. I don't know how long the role is, but it's worth a stroll. I don't know if you're a fan of Larry David's. I sure am.
Yes, I haven't watched this whole show, but obviously I adore Seinfeld, of which he was at least half of.
I haven't missed a show. I've seen some several times because they're so funny, and they're the classic ongoing comedy where one show drops a storyline that gets picked up, and you get the impression that they're writing these episodes as they go along, because the actors who are playing the characters are interacting, and depending on what ends up being funny,
right,
they go maybe in a different direction, because Larry David's both the actor and the writer. I don't think he's the director, is he?
Yeah, that's a huge advantage to doing things on the fly. Is there's one thing if you have your writer's room that defines the whole season and writes down every line of dialogue, but if you're doing it from the seat of your pants, as one says, much unlike this podcast that every line is totally scripted since 2 years ago.
Your scripts are so tedious.
God, I know. Your delivery of that line is exactly the way I wanted it when I wrote it in 2017.
You don't know what you want. You're like all editors. You see something and you edit it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What should we say? Should we say we will do this or we would? I don't know. We will do it means that you're going to do it.
Right.
And when it's a proposal, it's not a plan. It's not a plan. It's a proposal. It's nobody said, yes, let's do this. It doesn't turn, you don't get to say something as a concept where you said something to somebody like I say to you, hey, let's open up a fast food restaurant named Surf and Chirp, so that the last thing people think about is that the chicken they're eating not only was alive once, but made this kind of a sound. Okay?
Yep.
Okay?
And then they can tweet about
this?
Yep. I heard today on some other podcast that in Vietnam, I think it is, there's a delicacy where they will cook fertilized eggs, like chicken eggs, such that you end up with a sort of a hard, or like a soft-boiled egg, but like with a little cooked chicken side, which seems pretty horrible.
Oh my God.
Isn't that terrible? And yet we all eat
crispy,
chicken.
I hope. Beat all.
Talk about a chicken finger.
Oh, they're so little. They're so little. The bones, all you got to do is fry them deep enough, and when you crunch them, those bones are also cooked.
Hey, that's a thing that they eat here in Spain.
Butter?
It was probably the weirdest thing I've ever eaten in Spain, and I've eaten like pig's feet and pig's snouts and stuff like that. They will like deep fry little birds.
Real deep.
Well,
deep.
They're pretty crispy, but them bones, you got to crunch them down until you can swallow them, and like you eat a whole little bird, the kind of bird that would sit on your shoulder and tweet at you, and anyway, that's a weird thing. I haven't done it in a while, but
you sent me a remarkable story, historical walkthrough with some great graphics, different portraits and sculpted busts in the history of the Oval Office. And not only was it incredibly informative, but the way that they presented it,
isn't that amazing,
was very, very good. It just kept you wanting to see, and it got, oh my God, more. It was sort of like that thing that we listened to last week. That same kind of thing.
About the transporter?
Which was one of the more intense things that has happened to me in months listening to. That was pretty freaky.
Yes.
Well done.
Anyone can.
Hey, and toast to you, because there's a new beer tonight. It's called the Anchor Steam beer.
Anchor Steam.
From San Francisco, 1796, brewing, and it says here, deep amber color, rich, creamy head, flavors. And I gotta say, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. And it's in a giant can with a really great label. Nice.
Yeah, I remember the local beer in San Francisco when I was there last was something Anchor related.
See that?
But I can't recall which.
1896 it says. You feel like you got
beer.
You feel that history in your hand. You feel, wow, this amber beer, they've been doing this for that long. Oh man, I have something. I'm part of something.
They must know what they're doing.
Makes me feel. Yes.
It's like listening to a podcast that's been going for 109 episodes. So they must know what they're doing.
Well,
no, but so I want to go back to this Oval Office thing. The technical team at the New York Times does some amazing data visualizations and shit that makes it, when you're scrolling through their articles, it just comes alive in a way that other publications, what you're reading is basically what they would print on the paper to send to you. But here, it's they are doing a great job of embracing the scrolling online experience in a way that works on phones as well as tablets as well as browsers on the computer. And in like some of the people in my industry are like known and famous for being people that work at the New York Times to create these things. Like it's a prestigious job.
It's quite remarkable. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah. And to have it work on all the different browsers is super hard, and to have it work on all the different sizes is really complicated.
Right.
And they just do an amazing job. So, yes, I will put a link to that in the show notes.
Okay, so go ahead.
happyhour.fm/109. 109? 109?
109 episodes on the wall, 109 episodes. Pick one down, pass it around, 108 episodes on the wall.
Yep.
Hey, that's pretty catchy. We could make money changing that.
Yes, because a lot of good if there's one thing that I know that there's a market for, it's pay to sing drinking songs.
Yes, exactly.
What if there's a drinking song that we could pay a monthly fee?
We both know the same. We both know the
license.
same things. It's just
right. If we could just pay $10 a month, then per drunk at the local bar, of course, because when Larry comes over and he wants to sing too, we have to say, "Hold on, Larry, you're not licensed yet. You need to swipe your credit card here, and then you can sing along with us," because that's the way.
So that's not where the money is, though. That's not where the money is. The money is that along with the allowance to use our copyrighted song, you actually get mailed to you 109 bottles of beer, and each beer has the title, episode, and then the number of the episode. And so as you drink the beer, so you get all that and it's in a handy set of cases that you just hold up the beers.
Your starter set might come with just 40 of them.
It's nice.
Right.
It's $500 for the beer and the rights to use the song. And if you bring anybody with you, then there's a subscription fee.
Hold on. 50. We're giving bottles of beer for 50 cents? Oh, 500 you say for $5. Okay. Still, that's I want more margin.
Of beer in the wall.
Why can't they be $10 per bottle? $1,000, yeah.
It's $1,000.
It's just $1,000. It's a grand old time. Right?
Grand old time. Hey, we could see the full day that's become here. Only 57 degrees. I'll bring you a photo of previous episodes of the wall that was parting company from my house on the outside of my house where the concrete was breaking off. You've heard this. Well, I tore it all day. And I have now Is
that really rewarding? Is that like taking off a big scab where your wall is falling off and you just rip it off and you're just
this
like, oh,
baby. 12 by 4 foot rectangularish
scab.
Rectangularish. I don't like that. That's bloody and gross. Scab. But no. How about?
So are you not supporting the union on the strike, or so?
It's a slab. But here's the thing: is it came out in about 5 big chunks, and then I took a sledgehammer and broke it up into pieces. And so this is my tool of the day.
Tool of the day. Dun dun dun.
Tool of the day.
Yes.
I had a hammer. that was about 3 pounds, and on the front end was flat enough hexagon to pound in a big nail if you needed to, a big spike. But the other end was sharpened and in a hatchet-like triangular hunk of metal. And so where the house had separated, where the edge of the puff of the place where the concrete had weakened away from the house,
yes,
where you could see the extended, almost a pregnant house, dare I say. Just
it's bloated.
That's actually better, much better.
Okay.
Much better. So bloated,
not like,
in fact.
Not like a wound full of pus.
No.
But
Eric. It's surprising, and then it's not.
So you took the hammer.
So I'm glad I love this beer. Otherwise, I'd be barfing.
Tool of the day.
The tool of the day was that big. I think it was 3 pound. Might have been bigger, but pretty good size. Bam, 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 bam. Things started to fall away in pieces.
Boy, it's like you're mining in the caves, but it's really your own house.
No, not at all, actually.
Okay.
Almost like tearing the bark off a tree. So you're walking through the woods and you see a tree, a particular type of tree. I don't know what kind I would suggest here. But where the bark sheds in large chunks
right,
as the tree gets bigger.
Yep.
And when you feel that separation, it's either going to come off easily or it's not. So in the case of the wall, it's actually not, because it's concrete that's pressed into wire, and the wire is rusty, and that's why it's separating from the house, because it got rusty and started to loosen, and it's cracked. So in order to attack that area where the bloated part of the house meets the part of the house that isn't moving, it's
right,
secure in a line that happens to be somewhat rectangular, not surprising given the fact that houses are built square and rectangular. These are straight edge approaches.
No, boring houses.
So anyway, yeah, man, fell down. And then the second tool of the day was the sledgehammer.
Runner up.
Which once down, mask up, glasses on, and chopping what were 12-foot sections of wall. 12 foot by 8 inches, 10 inches. Concrete, wire, board that attaches the wire to the house, pulling away from the house. And here's the thing, important to note. You'll see it in the pictures. All the wallpaper from 1910 is totally intact and in place. I have no concern whatsoever that the damage to the wall was anything more than the veneer. And the solid pine house, when I open up, if I take that wallpaper off, which I probably won't, but if I did, I would smell fresh pine from 1910. That's astounding about this house.
So you were breaking this big slab off of the outside of the house, and the wallpaper on the inside is still smooth as a baby's bottom.
Tar paper, not wallpaper. Wallpaper's an interior decorator. This is tar paper.
Okay.
Pine house, tar paper, wooden slats.
So
wire to the slats.
Where you took off
Preston.
the big bloated concrete slab,
yes,
there's now a hole there that needs patching.
Yes, and more than just patching, a building in layers of a reconstruction with improvements from the original expectation of the house. So nowadays, instead of putting wooden slats up there, you take something called cement board, and it's very rigid, like 1/8-inch plywood. It's somewhat heavy, but it cuts with a knife and it breaks off easily. Mm-hmm. But the point is that you attach that with these tiny screws to the house, and instead of that screen, which goes on next, that screen has got to adhere to something. In the old style, it was slats with a space in between. This is cement board, and so when you nail onto the cement board the screen and you push the concrete through the screen, instead of filling in a space between slats to adhere, it instead is all pressed up against cement board, which when wet in touch with wet concrete melts down a bit, and then the two different types of concrete meld. They fuse. That's the modern improvement. So it's universal. Screws everywhere. The cement board everywhere screws. The screen screws everywhere. So that instead of slats, which in the old days, they had these wooden slats that gave you a place to staple stuff, they used a hammer and a big-ass staple. So they did the whole strips of the house.
Big
Boom,
ass
boom,
staple.
boom. Oh my God. What's that?
Big ass staple. That's impressive.
Yes, and I'm sure they were fast with it. But at any rate, the improvement is pretty superior. And
So how long until this
I'm
project is
actually-
done? How long until your wall looks like a wall from the outside?
2 more
Gosh.
weekends.
2 more weekends.
2
All
more
right.
weekends.
We will check
First,
back
now that
on
now it's
episode
gotta get- now it's
111.
gotta get-
We'll check back on episode 111 2 weeks from now. And
yeah,
we will.
yeah. You'll hear an update next week. We'll see if we're on track. But next week is the cleaning it up a little bit and buying and applying the cement board and the screen. You don't want to do all that and think you're going to work cement. I have to have someone here to help me mix the cement, because it's you got to be applying the shit. You got to patch it all at once.
Uh-huh.
You can't. Well, if you're doing a whole house, if you got an enormous patch, you have no choice. But if you have a choice, you want to get it all done at once. But this is to be the first time that I am going to use what I do now, and you remember this, believe, to be the stone that's mixed in with the concrete is crushed concrete rather than pea stone, which is what I used last time. And I think it may be the best patch job I've done. Thank God it's on the ground. No scaffolding, no ladders, no carrying the shit up in buckets. This is all right there.
Well, I still have trouble visualizing the rugged bumpiness. Last time we talked about how we were at my future our recording studio. We were going to take off the bump.
I'll give you another example.
I need some photos.
So, picture that you are at the beach.
Description. Yes.
You're at the beach, and you're going to paint your porch, and someone was supposed to have swept it before you got there, and they didn't, and you said, I don't care, and you spray painted it anyway. And when people would step on that, they would say, hey, this is kind of rough like sandpaper, and you'd say, yeah, and that would be the story. Here's what I want you to imagine now. Instead of sand, and before you paint it, throw down some little tiny pebbles, and then paint it really heavy. Paint it 3 coats, and then when you step on it, you're going to say, hey, this hurts a little bit when I step on this.
Yeah.
These are
With
kind
this
of
bumpy
jagged
shit.
bumps on this.
Yeah.
That is the texture of the wall, which of course, not many
Luckily,
people, you excluded, of
you don't
course,
have to step on.
would be able to walk on the side of a wall.
Right.
But with your prosthetic ankle and foot, you're strangely suited to be able to climb a wall straight up using your
But I might complain that
ankle.
this wall hurts my ankle foot. Yeah.
No, it doesn't hurt so bad that I can't do it. I think it'd be fine.
Okay. So
you've got the image now, right, Eric? You said earlier, I didn't quite understand. I don't know.
I feel better, yes, that I can visualize. However, if you had some sort of a machine that could capture light rays bouncing off of said texture and send those to me somehow digitally, that would be more clarifying than your eloquent
Okay, wait a minute. Let me
verbal depiction.
Wait a minute. Let me make a note here. I got a pencil right here. Let's see. Eric, and tell him, no fucking way am I going to remember what you told me to do. What are you drinking?
That's the whole point of writing, is that if you know that your brain is not recording anything right now, you can write it, and the paper might remember.
Who told you that? Who told you
Shakespeare.
that? Hey, so I got a story. to tell you.
Ooh,
So I go to the Y tonight after a hard afternoon of workout, tearing the wall down, all dusty in my hair and coughing and get shit. Go to the Y. I got a fresh set of clothes there. Punch in, wear my mask, get to my thing, and I think maybe there's somebody in the whole 30 or 40 locker room, but I don't know for sure. But sure enough, on the TV, big screen TV, is Trump saying, yeah, there'll be an announcement, and when you hear the announcement, I think you'll be happy about this particular announcement. And I said instinctively out loud, not really caring whether it was there or knowing for certain, I said, oh God, not again.
It's him again.
And just as I did, I realized that a dude was there, one guy who I've seen before, who, as soon as I saw him, I realized that I know his politics. And when I looked at him after having said that, he looked at me and he said, huh? What? And I just said, I didn't say anything. And I was still in the room, so I had to take another couple of steps while he was apparently thinking about what he was going to say. He heard me perfectly well. He was stalling to think of a response. And he says, "It makes me very happy."
Nice.
And by then I was out of the room, and I just started pantomiming in the mirror. Oh my God. And as I was showering and shaving and getting cleaned up, and I had a pleasant dip into the hot tub, which was immaculate, very, very hot, very, very powerful. Had it all to myself for 7 or 8 minutes. Oh my God, was that great. Take a shower, come out.
I have a question. When you go to the Y...
Yes, you in the front. You. No, not you. You in the front. Go ahead.
Is it? Yes, sorry. Erik from happyhour.fm. When you go to the Y, do you do more than bathe?
Yes, historically I have. I was a swimmer. And that's about all I can do anymore. I used to play paddleball back in the day and before that basketball, but I can't do any of that because I have ankles which are not capable of moving laterally. Now, if you imagine a crab on the beach scurrying, first to the left, then to the right, well, that scurrying motion is very valuable when you're playing sports, net sports,
yes.
Be it as tennis or paddleball or racquetball, which is just paddleball on freaking steroids.
Right.
And there's we could talk about that sometime. I've got some stories about my days as a paddleball player that you might be fascinated by. Although, let me think. Nah.
Let's query the listeners. Everyone can write into us. You can tweet at us at happyhourdotfm and let us know if you want to hear from Dennis's paddleball stories. And if we receive literally any response at all, we might go ahead with that next episode.
But I should at least provide the title of the first story. The title of the first paddleball story, then we'll let them write it. The name of it is called Lash LaRue Gets Revenge.
Shit. That's intriguing. I might pick that book off the shelf. We'll leave that up to the listeners. Go to patreon.com/happyhour and let us know that you really want to hear about Lash LaRue and his revenge.
How much does it cost him to vote? Let's do this the American way.
Yeah, I think if you're a $10 subscriber, we will hear your...
You get to vote.
Yeah. Yeah. I consume some podcasts where if you want the hosts to talk about whatever you wanted them to talk about, it costs like $100 a month or something. Which is just, wow.
So, new series, HBO series, called The Mayor of East... What's it called? Mayor of Eastwick?
Sunbelt.
Oh, shit. Mayor of...
Easttown? Easttown.
Easttown. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It is freaking remarkable. She
not mayor
is
as in like the person that's in charge of the town, but mare as in the female horse, not a stallion.
Yes, spelled exactly the same way, but in this case, a version
her name?
of Mary, I'm sure. Yes.
Kate Winslet. Nice.
Yes. And I'm in the 3rd episode, and I can't believe the way the plot has gone. It is keeping me on the edge of my seat.
All right.
And
I will put that in my homework notes for next time. Don't say any more about it. I don't want to know any more about it. And we will come back next time and talk about it. Dennis, I think it's time to go back to our Guinness Book of World Records corner.
Man.
Our recurring segment.
Episode 57.
Previously, we discussed the longest fingernails. And now we're discussing another sort of extension of the body. And that is this article that you sent me from CNN Travel titled, Why So Many People in China Are Becoming Mermaids.
And before we go too far into this, I want to just say one thing.
Yes.
And it's a surprise. Using private donors here,
yes,
I have booked you and I 2 tickets to participate in the next attempt. And I can't wait, and I know nor can you.
This is amazing. I look forward to we're about to take a deep dive into this topic, but to really kick my way down into the depths of mermaid. We would be mermen, by the way. The technical term.
I was about to.
Because we will not be mermaids.
And what is the tri-spike scepter that mermen carry? What's that called?
That's the trident, probably of Poseidon.
Trident.
Who is the Greek god of the sea. Yep, Greek god of the sea. And earthquakes and storms and horses.
What was the record? How many did they have? Should I guess? Because I don't know.
So what's going on here is people that, like, literally the leader of this group said that, she said, I was inspired by an old movie called Splash in the 1980s. The heroine is a mermaid who lives in the sea.
Carol Hannah.
And Tom Hanks, I believe.
Yes.
And
exactly. It was great.
And yeah, and then she has this quote in the article that I actually copied and pasted so that I would get it verbatim. She said, I was searching worldwide to get a swimmable tail. There weren't many nice options. They are all mainly decorative costumes for kids and not functional for mermaid diving. Luckily, I did find a good old merfin, in quotes, merfin, that was powerful enough to move and swim in. Then I used lycra fabric to design my first series of mermaid tails, says Lee, the person being interviewed here. So it's basically you pull this sack over your legs, and then you jump in the water, and then you swim butterfly kick style, like dolphin kick.
Yeah.
And off you go. And it works, yeah.
Gotta be faster than shit.
Yeah, probably. You got to come up to breathe and whatnot. But yeah, the whole concept of mermaids, and I lived for 6 months in Copenhagen, Denmark, where the number one thing that, if as a tourist you have to go see, is this little statue of a mermaid, because The Little Mermaid was written by Hans Christian Andersen, who's from Copenhagen. And it's this silly little rock thing. The statue is maybe it's less than 2 feet tall. And it's just this bronze woman sitting on a not a woman, excuse me, mermaid sitting on a rock. And I don't know, it's weird. Like, we have this idea that women that are half fish are kind of sexy, but it doesn't do it for me.
That's because they depict mermaids as sexy. It's not a wild imaginative thing. That's how they're depicted. Or is that what you mean?
Yeah, they're certainly depicted as sexy.
We have an idea. That's exactly what marketeers want us to have an idea of, because it helps them sell their products.
And like mermen,
not so much.
Well, I mean,
not so much.
There's, if you think about it for any moment at all, you get down to where, if from the waist down you're a fish. Where are all your genitals? How are you doing pee-pee and poo-poo?
You're so scientific.
Are you a fish?
I don't know where you learn this stuff.
It's great that you have mammalian nipples, but the scales on your tail are like, what? So
the scales lift and separate, and there the orifices and the protrusions are found. Certainly it's not beyond your imagination. There's parts of your skin that appear to be scaly from the camera angle.
Right. I mean,
that's your neck area. It looks a little scaly.
If you get me really angry, then my neck all like poofs out.
Like a concrete wall separating from a pine house.
That was the exact metaphor I was going for. Gets all bloated.
I gotta make sure that my phone is off. It is.
It's about time. Part of the episode.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day here. Just so gorgeous. And the sun is out and just probably warmed up. So I parked my truck near a tree that shed its pollen last night.
Is this your new green truck?
Yes. And it was wet because it had rained, and then the pollen and the wind blew it. And the truck was stuck all over with these stems and these seedy little helicopter things that when they fall from the oak tree, they spin. And I mentioned that you can see them. The pollen is 1,000 miles out to sea. It travels like that. But here, plastered on my car. So I had the first rite of passage of taking my truck to the spray wash and blasting the hell out of it and cleaning it. And it is one of the more satisfying things to be able to have a dirty vehicle, and when you leave, it's a clean vehicle. You must agree.
Yeah.
You don't have a vehicle. I forgot.
No, but it's not to go gross again, but it's you're picking off your scab. It goes from being filthy, and then you work on it a bit, and then it's all good and clean. I like a good cleaning.
You look like you need one. Back in the day, they used to put maggots on wounds and shit to eat the rotting flesh. So
I shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Somebody told you back in the day that it would save your limb, you would say it, or did the doctors not tell you? Did, like, you woke up from anesthesia and you said, oh, it's all bandaged up, and what did you do? And the doctor looks at you and lies and says, I just put some stuff on it, and it's going to feel funny. It's going to feel like there's ants or something there. It's just a tingling it's the drug. And your horror when you decide one night that the itchings drive you crazy and you take the bandages off.
Oh, God.
And the first thing you think is, and he lied to me, the first thing you think is, oh, my God, What was supposed to be happening here isn't happening. Instead, my leg is full of maggots. Flies have gotten in to my wound and laid their eggs, and they've multiplied, and they're white,
Stop.
and they're squiggly.
Stop.
And
This is like some Philip K. Dick horror shit. Gross. But well done.
Mr. Scab.
You outgrossed me. Well
I don't
done.
think so. I don't think so. I don't think what I just said is as bad as what you said about pus and blood and scum bursting out of your skin.
That's all something that came from you, though. Having an outside intruder burrowing in is more gross to me. But let's change the subject, shall we?
Shall we?
I learned a weird thing.
We have. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please.
I learned a weird thing the other day, that what a stegosaurus is, those dinosaurs with the little fins on the back.
Yes, I do.
And what a tyrannosaurus is.
I do indeed.
It turns out that
Ever changing Tyrannosaurus Rex, I must say.
It turns out that we are closer to the Tyrannosaurus than the Tyrannosaurus is to the Stegosaurus.
Huh.
Since the invention of podcasting, to the Tyrannosaurus was 67 million years. And from the Tyrannosaurus to the Stegosaurus was 85 million years. Isn't that weird? That we label dinosaurs as an epoch, but that epoch was longer than it's been since they were around. And since we were little...
I actually thought that was true.
Mammalian varmints.
Because you seem closer to me, to a Tyrannosaurus Rex, than... Because of your hair.
I've got pretty long arms, though.
Nose. And, well, they're pretty tiny, pretty skinny, and your big old haunches.
Well, that's true.
I wish the listeners could see you, because your haunches are so big that you're not sitting in your chair, you're sitting on it. On your haunches. So it's a lot going on with the scaly neck, and just between you and me, I think maybe you're Exhibit A. Exhibit A.
And
new Al Pacino movie coming out.
Tell me more.
Al Pacino starring as a lawyer defending a spy, I believe.
I love Al Pacino lawyer. I love lawyer Al Pacino. I loved his movie where he was the devil, and Keanu Reeves was the young lawyer.
Yes,
that was so fucking good.
And he was at his absolute.
The Devil's
prime.
Advocate, 1999.
His absolute prime. Hey, you sent me a hater. What was that? The Irish Dating Game? I didn't get to see it. Do we have time for you to chat it to me so I can look at it, or no?
No, that's a little bit longer.
Okay.
But YouTube has, with its fucking clever algorithms, has determined that I really love the seasons of SNL where Bill Hader was on, and I'll give you a little summary. It's this Irish dating game where there's the Bachelor, and then there's these three girls that come out, and the host is everything is all super Irish, and Hader's
the host.
No, Hader is the Bachelor, and they start interrogating the Bachelorettes, and it becomes clear that at least one of them is Hader's cousin. And one of the Bachelorettes is an American Irish that has a more American accent because she couldn't do the Irish accent I mentioned. And everyone in the show is, oh wow, now that you know that this girl is your cousin, good luck to the other two because she has a clear advantage. And anyway, it's super like Irish incestuous stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the questions is, what would be your perfect date with me? And the one that is his cousin says, you remember that time two funerals ago where we went out in the back alley? And he's like, oh, do I ever?
Oh dear,
it's really bad, but it's so good. You have to see that. So yeah, there's that.
Hey, so I got more homework for you.
Oh, great.
Yes, a movie I saw last night. I love westerns. And this western called, oh Lord, never mind. I've lost it already. I'm like getting so old. I can't follow my own thought through the end of the sentence. That's not good.
Well, we have a death to mourn.
Oh yes, a toast. We have a toast. Olympia Dukakis.
To Olympia Dukakis. She was amazing in Moonstruck and in many other things.
Yes.
And she passed away in hospice care with her family there, as you should, at a ripe old age.
You give that damn dog another bite of my food, old man, and I'm going to kick you till you're dead.
Cheers, Olympia. Yeah.
And her brother, Apollo, announced it, and her cousin, Michael. Where is Michael Dukakis? Is he dead? Did we hear from him about this?
Let me look into the internet machine.
Man, that Anchor Steam beer is something.
He was born in 1933, and after his presidential run, he endorsed Elizabeth Warren's candidacy last year.
Recently, he's got to be in his 80s then.
So, speaking of ancient Democrats, this photo went viral this week of the Bidens and the Carters.
Yes.
And the internet freaked the fuck out because they don't understand how camera lenses work, and how if you are in a tight little living room and you need to take a portrait of 4 people sitting, 2 people in armchairs separated by a big fucking table, and then the other 2 people on each arm on the outside of the armchairs, you need a really wide angle lens, and it's going to distort the whole photo in a way that, much like the way our projection of the Earth onto a flat canvas makes it look like Greenland is freaking huge because it's at the edge, it makes people at the edge of your shot look freaking huge. And this photo went viral because it looks
very unnerving, though, isn't it?
It looks like President Joe and Dr. Jill are just these enormous people with their little Muppet ventriloquist dolls of the Carters.
Yes.
And it's funny. It's funny, and it's a thing that is like, oh, haha, let's share this. But then a whole bunch of people couldn't understand what the hell was going on here. And there are a whole bunch of articles that attempt to describe why this is the case, but none of them did a very good job. So anyway, a couple hours ago, I opened up Photoshop and I made some assumptions about how it looks like the chairs that are here are like the bottoms of the chairs follow this perfect curve. And I figured, what if the chairs were actually in a straight line? And so I was able to distort the photo in such a way that those chairs were in a straight line, and then everyone looked normal. Everything else is distorted
because that had the effect of minimizing the outer edges.
Exactly.
You reduced the outer edges by doing that. It was remarkable what you did. I was quite impressed. So where can people find that, though? Hey,
I imagine that's going to be in the show notes at happyhour.fm/109. And another
109 episodes of beer in the wall. 109 episodes of beer. Take one down and pass it around. 108 episodes of beer on the wall. Come on, man. 108 episodes of beer on the wall. 100 episodes of beer. Take one down and drink it along.
One other piece of media that I shared with you this week, right after we recorded last week, I think, was this amazing clip that I found shared online of Andre Agassi talking about how when he was playing against Boris Becker was this super tall, amazing serving tennis player, and how Andre, apparently this is a thing that pro athletes do, is they will sit and just watch video clips of their opponents playing and teach their brains to sense what the other person is about to do.
They're looking for a tell.
Well, but I think this is a rare case where he can actually put words to the tell. But I think most of the time, you don't know, you can't say what the tell is, but you sense.
It's a feeling. It's a sense.
Right. Your brain figures it out. And in this case, Andre discovered that Boris Becker, every time he served, would, just as he was about to serve, he would put his tongue out of his mouth to a different side of his mouth, depending on where he was going to serve and how. And in a way that Boris was unaware, he didn't know he was doing this, but it was just a tick that he had. The poker players that have their tell and have no idea how the other person can figure out what they're on about. But it's just this beautiful little video that I will link to in the show notes.
The quotable quote is what he said to his wife.
Yeah,
when he got home.
When years later,
matches, yes.
Well, yeah. Andre said that years later, after they were no longer arch rivals, because I remember watching tennis at the time when they were arch rivals, and he told Boris at some tennis dinner party, he said, "Did you know how I knew where you were going to serve it every time? Because you do this thing with your tongue." And he had no idea. And
no idea.
He specifically recalls telling his wife that Andre fucking reads my mind. I don't know how he does it, but he knows what I'm going to do.
It's like he can read. It's like he can read my mind. And what Andre said about that is that, and I wouldn't overuse it.
Exactly. Then you get into the other game.
Because I didn't want to give away that I knew the tell.
Right. That's like the ultimate spycraft, is we can
Yes.
decode all of your messages, but we need to
Yes.
only act on some of them, because if we act on every single one of them, then you know that we know your code. So we can only do it some of the time to get lucky, and the rest of the time you need to think that you're fooling us. And that level of that's like Bletchley Park level of spycraft, which is super cool.
Yes. I'm so happy that winter's over. The spring here in the 50s reminds me of how much I love the spring before it gets hot. I don't like hot. I don't like 80s and 90s.
So you're
I don't
not
know what
retiring to Florida?
No. I don't want to. Well, in Florida, it gets in the 60s in the winter. You got to go all the way down to Key West before you don't get chilly. The southern tip of Louisiana, it's cold. You got to wear a winter jacket in the winter. It's in the 50s and windy. It gets cold. You would never. I wouldn't. I never had thought that was the case. But the way that the coolness and the dampness is helping everything grow, particularly jubilantly and strongly, means that even if the summer gets real hot, everything will be fine, because it's really been such a plant, tree friendly spring. Plenty of moisture, which reminds me I left the hose on outside.
Oh, no.
I planted grass this last weekend too. Cut down 3 trees that were 8 inches around with a chainsaw that was too big, particularly when I had to haul it up a fucking ladder. But I cut down 3 trees and put in some new lawn. I did that this past weekend.
The trees were bothering you in some way?
Pictures coming. What's that?
The trees were annoying you in some way? Why did they deserve that?
There were
fate?
too many of them, and they weren't healthy for the. They were a community of trees, and some had to be abandoned
Culled.
for the health of the others. Plus, one of the major ones was over the top of the little chimera that I've got out there, little stove.
Can't be having that.
So I tied ropes to it. Tied ropes to both branches, which could otherwise, one would have fallen in my neighbor's yard, possibly damaged his fence. The other one might have landed on the high tension wires, if not the roof of my shed. So in each case, I tied a rope. I put the loop around the tree at the middle, a little above the middle. Then I used the chainsaw and I cut the tree, not down, but in half. So that when I started to pull on it, it stretched toward me, and thus out of the way, cut down the rest of the tree. In both occasions, no damage was done to either the roof, the fence. None of it was precarious on the other person's property. I was quite happy with it. And
Nice.
then the planting of the grass was I'll send you photos, because I think that a lot of our listeners are hoping to hear about how to do this stuff. It's to them, it's like a tool show.
Yeah, most of it is
right?
turning into
the favorite tool.
Dennis the
tool
Tool
of
Man
the
Taylor.
day is their favorite. Yes, yeah. It's a favorite. It's their favorite part of the show. We should do it more often. Hey, we should do it 2 or 3 times an episode.
I have, speaking of high tension cable, I have an anecdote, if you've got the time.
I've got the time.
I've got the anecdote. So my house, we have this balcony that in Spain there's a lot of interior balconies, which means that a building is built on a city block, and then on the inside it's hollow, and there are balconies to this interior patio. It dates back to the Moorish invasion, where that sort of architecture of having an interior patio is a thing, but now it's true in tall buildings in Spain. And so anyway, we have this interior balcony, and because of the culture in Spain, we don't have a drying machine, so we have a place to hang our clothes out from this balcony. You following?
You mean a dryer?
We don't have a dryer, no.
A dryer?
Dryer. What did I say?
Is that what you mean? Drying machine.
Oh, sorry, we don't have a dryer.
It was like you were from the 1800s or something.
We don't got one of them newfangled machines that does the drying.
We got that drying machine. We have this other thing, it's a scrubbing machine. First you put the stuff in the scrubbing machine.
In the scrubber.
Then you put the stuff in the drying machine and it comes out.
So
You use this flattening thing. And
yeah. So the way we dry our clothes is we hang them out on this. We have these steel arms that come out from either side of the balcony, and then we have ropes running on pulleys.
Right.
We don't necessarily need the pulleys. There are places where sometimes you can't get all the way to the end, so you actually want to hang clothes and then pulley them out so far
you
away.
put your striped Speedos out there to dry for
everything.
everyone to see.
Yeah,
America Speedos.
of course. No, it's not for everyone to see. It's just for the neighbors because it's an interior balcony.
Every one of your neighbors is what
Right.
I mean. I didn't.
They all know.
Quite a few people. How many people are facing inward?
There's got to be 20 flats.
20 on the inside, 20 on the outside?
No, most of them are both on the inside and the outside. Anyway, so we had these straight steel arms, and apparently this wasn't a problem that I had because I'm fairly tall, but apparently my wife and in-laws had trouble reaching all the way out to the third of the 3 lines to
So they needed
hang
the
stuff.
pulleys.
No. So my father-in-law, who has very little schooling, like he left school at age 11 to start working, but he's been working with building shit for his whole life, so he knows more about the practicality of building things than I do, for sure. But he said, he came up with this idea. He said, what if, rather than being flat out from the wall, what if these arms were angled upward, so that from the balcony it was easier to get to the far ones, and they could still you could still have several of them
Closer but higher.
And he came up with this idea, and he asked if I had any cardboard lying around, which of course I had some old Amazon boxes lying around, and he built out of cardboard this arm at the angle that he thought it should be. And he and I went to the local, because I live in a fishing village, we have a local steel welding place that fixes like shit on the boats. And so we went into this place that welds steel together, and we said, hey, we've got this proposal. Do you think you could build these arms and weld them to plates that fit into the holes that we already have on the wall, such that we could hang our clothes at this weird angle? And over the course of several weeks, we went back and forth with them, where they didn't really understand what we wanted, but then we tried to explain better what we wanted. And in the end, what they came up with just worked fucking perfectly the first time. We put up these arms that are more angled upward, and the plate that they are welded to fits perfectly onto the wall where the existing plate was. We didn't have to drill any holes, and it just
So
came out.
Sell 20 of these?
It just came out great.
20 of these?
No, it's a bespoke.
Good sell, man.
I've never had a bespoke stainless steel thing manufactured for me before, but now I have.
You should post it and go into a little business. Everybody on the inside will want those. Why wouldn't they? Everybody's got the same problem you have.
I could hang my clothes and an advertisement banner.
Ah, that drops down 3 stories.
Exactly.
Unfurls. And you encourage your neighbors below you that it's actually a canvas ready for their painting for a major art exhibit.
Yeah, I don't know about
They'll
that.
never know.
But so this was a new experience for me to custom build something made out of fucking steel that turned out perfectly the first time because it just worked. So pretty cool. Kudos to my father-in-law for that idea. And
yes, kudos. Hey, so Dos Equis Amber went to buy Smittix at the local Hardings.
Yes.
And for the second time in a row, no Smittix. Not only is there no Smittix, somebody took the Smittix sign little sticker down. And there's no space that has. If the Smittix is gone, you could find the Smittix sticker. And we puzzled over it, went to the desk, called the manager, gone to the bank. Nobody knew. Somebody worked in wine. She came, and she said it's supposed to be here. It's a good seller. I don't know.
I'm upset.
Blah, blah. I said, sometimes you stare and you look and you miss it. It's not here. So I'm going to go for what's on sale for $7.79 and get Cerveza Dos Equis.
Yes.
Triple X.
Nope.
Amber.
Not triple. Try again.
No.
What does dose mean?
Right, quadruple.
No.
4 X's there.
Depends on how many of them you have had already.
If I turn it this way, it's 2 Ks facing each other.
Well.
Whoa. Look out.
Whoa, man. It's like, what?
What?
So, what a lovely evening we've had.
Why, is it over?
You got any more stories involving concrete and hammers and...
My trees are coming up. My bushes, I should say.
You cut down 2 trees.
Cut down, well, they're a tree with a double trunk I cut down. And then I
Does that count as one tree?
I'm counting it as 2.
Okay.
Two cuts. If you want to argue limb versus tree, I suppose we can get into that. But it was a double trunk tree, so I think I'll just say that. I won't call it 2 or 1. I'll just say I cut a double trunk tree. It took 2 cuts. And then you can assign it to some other...
So it went into the ground in 2 different spots? And then
into the ground.
Well, what do you call a trunk of a tree?
What do I call the trunk of a tree? The trunk comes out of the ground, comes up about 1.5 feet, and then divides into two main trunks. Each of those trunks are the same size. It is, in fact, a double-trunked tree. Now, what's your question?
I would, if you cut it low to the ground, you're only cutting one. You're only going to have one stump, right?
But what you don't understand is that it's in a community of trees. And so this is a raised area of interactive trunk and stem and root. And the whole area is above ground. And whether I'm cutting something above the ground or below the ground, it's all one organism. It's a copse of trees. And the particular one that I'm cutting is the most prolific of the copse. And then there's two others that I think one might be an elm tree. I think let's see. There's one elm. So I trimmed them up so that all of the leaves get more air and light.
Why do you
get them out of harm's way with the fire pit?
Why do you hate the cops? Why are you trying to kill cops?
Oh, God. Don't go there. We'll get calls. There'll be phone calls. There'll be letters written. I don't.
So
Cops.
You really think it's one creature?
Of course.
Organism.
It's all one set of roots.
So you're pruning.
The pruning, yes. You show me this parrot. It's dead.
Not pining.
Dead.
Pruning.
Oh, pruning. It's just pointing.
It's pruning for the fjords. No.
A friend of mine is Hawaii. I want to give her a shout out. Aloha. She showed me a image of a beach in the main island, I believe. That was amazing to see. Not a crowded beach either, by the way. Populated, but not crowded. So here's to her. There's another toast.
Well, aloha to all of our
Dos Equis.
All of our listener in Hawaii.
Oh, mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Let them be lawyers and doctors and
Podcasters.
I'm going to get my music straight. I now have, my truck has got a CD player.
Ooh, fancy.
Unlike my other truck.
That's like high tech.
Oh, yeah.
New.
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
And that means I've got a place to listen to music. We took the new the new Toyota to the lake for our Sunday drive, and we hiked 2.5 miles from the lake toward our house, in fact. Walking east, swamplands, and just gorgeous river, and oh my God. I'll send you a picture too. You'll like it.
Well, you've got 25 pictures that you promised me, so the way you send pictures at full fucking resolution, my Google account, I don't know if I can handle that, but I will get some and look at them and then delete them.
I don't have a choice in the matter, do I? Am I supposed to do something to reduce your anxiety on this? You've said it's like, I don't know. So when I take a picture with my phone, that's what it does.
Right.
Do I do a setting and change it? Beautiful pictures.
What? And I want to see them in full resolution, but I don't know. We'll have to figure some way for you to send them to me.
Let's post them on a cloud.
There you go. Post them on the cloud. Upload them to the heavens.
Reminds me of a song. Time a kangaroo down, sport. Time a kangaroo down. What episode was that? Take a guess.
65.
89. Go listen to between 65 and 89.
Wait, so I said what? I said 65?
65. I said 89.
Our Captain Kangaroo discussion, which must have preceded that song,
yes,
was 71. So we were right around it.
Well, you were closer, though.
Well,
89. Is that true? Yes.
Without going over, if it's
like
Progressive Road rules.
Hey,
obviously,
what'd you expect? Hey, what'd you expect?
Boy.
Lord, the beat goes on. Oh, what was the Al Pacino movie we talked about last time?
That is in the show notes, and I can look it up because it is Stand Up Guys.
Stand Up Guys.
See, that's why we have show notes with Walken and Arkin.
Christopher Walken.
Walken and Arkin.
I'm channel surfing, and I come across this Christopher Walken film where he was in his late 70s, somewhat recent. And he played Frank Sinatra type lounge singer who was very famous and had hit albums and was in his old age. And his daughter from one of his marriages, of 5 marriages, was played by Amber Heard of the Johnny Depp lawsuit fame. And I'm glad I didn't know that as I watched the movie for reasons we don't need but could go into. But she was great in this flick and was a singer-songwriter like her famous father. But it was interesting to hear Christopher Walken do so much singing. We knew he was a dancer because I sent you that clip.
Right.
Did we ever talk about that clip? I think we did.
I've certainly seen it, and it's been...
But this is him singing and how comfortable he is and how interesting he is, that he is well known for his very realistic and individualist style. Now,
he must have some Broadway chops.
Oh, he does.
Over the years.
He was a child dancer, singer,
Tap dancer, yeah.
Yeah, tap dancer.
Okay, so the movie you're talking about is called One More Time from 2015.
Oh, yes.
Christopher Walken, Amber Heard.
Yes, so there's more homework for you. So you've got about 16 hours of homework left.
Yeah, I'll just quit my job. Do this full time.
You know,
paying the bills.
You can live off this. That one dude, man, from Pennsylvania, still in the car.
I mean,
still downloading.
Download and driving.
Downloading. Where are you from? I'm from downloading. Where are you from?
Okay, that does it for episode number 109. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/109. I highly recommend that you check out the Oval Office piece from the New York Times. Dennis has sent me some photos of his giant slab hole to post for you. And that Agassi video where he's talking about Boris Becker is just fantastic. So, we will see you next week.